Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maura Keefe. I'm one of the scholars in residence here. Welcome to Jacob's Pillow, the dance festival, and this pre-performance talk. These talks happen here for every performance in the Ted Shawn Theater, and we also do pre-performance talks in the venue for week-long performance engagements on the Henry J. Lear stage. So if you're also seeing the Royal Ballet outdoors, there'll be a pre-performance talk down there as well. These talks are part of the free event series here at the Pillow, which includes hour-long Pillow talks on Saturday afternoons. On Saturday, we'll be in conversation with the Royal Ballet Artistic Director, Kevin O'Hare, with my colleague, Teresa Ruth Howard. And then you all are invited to something that you are one of two audiences that will get invited to. Phil Chan, who's the choreographer, author, and the head of Ending Yellowface, curated, along with Caroline Hamilton, the Fantasy Meets Reality Costume and Ephemera collection that is in the special exhibition space. He'll be doing a brief tour of the exhibition from his perspective directly following the performance. So at around 4:30 today till just about 5 o'clock, he'll be talking about these items that are from the Pillows collection, but it's pre-Pillow history. It's the history of Denishawn dance. So back in time with a new perspective. So it's just today and tomorrow. So don't tell all your friends who are coming on Saturday because they won't be here. You can find out about other events, talks, workshops, and films that are happening this summer on the Pillow website or in the season brochure. There's so much happening on the grounds of the Pillow and beyond in the Berkshires. You need somewhere to look it all up. You might hear some bells ringing. That's just to let you know that the theater doors are open, but you'll be out of here in plenty of time to find your seats. Okay, on to today. This week is the Jacob's Pillow debut of the Royal Ballet of the United Kingdom, and a debut indeed. As I said, they're not only performing in the Ted Shawn Theater, the program I'm talking about, but they're also performing on the outdoor stage. Between the two stages, 18 dances created by 10 choreographers from the United Kingdom primarily, but also the United States, France, and Russia. 3 women and 7 men made the dances, and almost 24 dancers performed them. The earliest work on the program is from the mid-19th century, and the newest work was from last night. It premiered last night. Such a wealth of talent of all sorts, and so much ballet history, both specific to England, but really across Europe and the United States. Imagine how long this talk could be, but I'll keep my enthusiasm in check and address really the question of what kinds of choreography does this company do, and then what does that say about the Royal Ballet in the 21st century. But before that, a nod to the origin story. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the founder of what would become the Royal Ballet with a performance she organized in 1931. Ninette de Valois, dancer, choreographer, artistic director, and teacher. De Valois, simply put, had a vision for creating a specifically British ballet company and the school that would train the dancers. She coupled that vision with the fortitude and grit to make it happen. She identified brilliant collaborators, dancers, choreographers, and musicians, and fostered an environment that led the Royal Ballet to becoming royal. In 1956, the late Queen Elizabeth II granted the company and the school a royal charter, recognizing it as the leading British ballet company. In the program, there's a pillow note that covers more of the company's essential place in the 20th and 21st century of dance history. And in the lobby of the Ted Shawn Theater is an exhibition curated by Jacob's Pillow Director of Preservation, Norton Owen, on the connections between the Royal Ballet and Jacob's Pillow. Now, to remind us all about the world we're about to enter, a few hallmarks of ballet. Codified technique, a series of steps. Classes around the world taught with the same words, a sense of verticality, a formal organization of the stage space. And even though we know it's never been static, ballet has been a constant presence in Western concert dance for centuries. Other things we can count on, brilliant soloists and a collective of dancers known as the corps de ballet, literally the body of ballet. Typically, choreography and dancing deeply entwined with music. This afternoon's performance, we're seeing 9 separate works. Don't worry about keeping the program in your hand in the theater. Each piece is introduced with a projected image, reminding us of who is dancing and what we're seeing. The afternoon opens with Secret Things, choreographed by Pam Tanowitz to the music of British-born composer Anna Klein, who was described in the New York Times as a composer of uncommon gifts and unusual methods. This piece premiered last year, and we're seeing a long excerpt of it. The music is performed live, I'll say that. But I also am going to say a little bit more about this piece than the others on the program because it's perhaps farthest from the world of ballet that I just described. New York-based choreographer and artistic director Pam Tanowitz is the recipient of the 2024 Jacob's Pillow Dance Award. In the work for her own company, Pam Tanowitz Dance, which appeared on the Inside Out series and in the Duke Theater here at the Pillow, the work is often described as occurring at the intersection of ballet and modern dance. In Secret Things, which was commissioned by the Royal Ballet, we see several intersections between ballet and modern dance. The choreographic structure, the relationship of the music to the dancing, and in the dancing itself. Tanowitz loves music and its relationship to dance, but her choreography is neither deeply wedded to the musical structure, as we'll see, for example, in George Balanchine's work this afternoon, nor is it independent of the music, as it is in the work of one of her primary artistic influences, Merce Cunningham. For her, music and dance are certainly friends. She works to bring together sound and movement in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's more to the forefront. As a choreographer, Tanowitz is a self-identified student of dance history, and what that means for her is less of a concern with movement invention and more of a fascination with understanding the history of movements. As she remarked in an interview, I like to take those steps that people have seen before, and dust them off a little, show them in a new way. So you've seen it before, but not really. Some traits of ballet that you'll see in this work: the precision of footwork, the petit allegro, the small jumps that beat in the air, the precise épaulement, literally the shouldering, about the position of the shoulders, head, and neck, and at times the coordination of the legs, arms, and head. What feels more like the world of modern dance in this work is the flexible torso, the weightedness in contrast to the elevation we often think of in ballet, and at times a deliberate placement of the dancer's arms at their side rather than gently extended out into space. And finally, there's a real matter-of-factness about the performance by the dancers. A striking difference between choreographically from many ballets is there's so many things at times to see happening all at once. Tanowitz doesn't say, this is where you should look by framing a soloist with the corps de ballet. She lets us decide. It's a rather egalitarian world she's created. After that, we'll see three variations on the pas de deux. Pas de deux, literally translated as a step of two, is emblematic of ballet. In the earliest days of ballet, the pas de deux was performed by a man and woman who did identical movements simultaneously, occasionally holding hands, but often simply just side by side, dancing symmetrically. By the early 18th century, according to ballet scholar Sandra Noel Hammond, dancers and choreographers alike began to realize the dramatic potential of amorous situations in the pas de deux. By the 19th century, then, the side-by-side symmetrical dancing gave way to what we think of today, a formalized means of displaying the differences between women and men dancers. Typically, pas de deux follow an established structure. They dance together, he as a solo, then she does, then they come together for the finale. And here's where you're really going to see the codified movement vocabulary for ballet, distinct by gender. She is precise, delicate, and sparkling as she decorates the space around her with rapid-fire turns and small jumps. He is bravura, giant leaps and jumps that travel out into space. Together, they are always a delight. The first pas de deux is Diamonds by George Balanchine from 1967 to the music of Tchaikovsky, part of the evening-length masterpiece Jewels. This is followed by Giselle from 1841, a romantic ballet, Marius Petipa after Corelli and Perrault. And then the third pas de deux is Diana and Actaeon from 1935, Vaganova after Petipa. You start to see an artistic family tree emerging in these works. In this series of duets, we'll go from no narrative in Balanchine to the importance of narrative, and now you'll see the expressive or storytelling ability of this company. Back to what Nanette de Valois, founder of the company, sought in creating a British ballet company. She said in a 1968 talk, The English dancer shows himself to possess neatness, speed, and precision in his technical feats. In his most expressive moments, we are aware that he has a marked lyrical quality. In his dramatization of narrative scenes, he can show talent for detailed characterization. I'd replace that 1968 he with a she, particularly because of the characters of Giselle and Diana. In these duets, the choreographic structure and movement vocabulary are similar, but where they're completely different is in the characterizations. Giselle is a woman with a weak heart. She goes mad and dies and comes back in Act 2 as a spirit or a ghost. Diana is the goddess of the hunt, also known as Artemis, and Actaeon is a hunter who happens upon her in the forest. You will see the differences in their characters in the dancing. Giselle is softness, she's delicate, she's sylph-like. Diana is power and strength. And I want to note that Diana and Actaeon was choreographed by Agrippina Vaganova, the great Russian ballet mistress, teacher, and choreographer. We close Act 1 with 5 Brahms waltzes in the manner of Isadora Duncan, an extraordinary work by the British choreographer Frederick Ashton from 1975. Ashton had seen the American pioneer of modern dance, Isadora Duncan, perform in 1921 when he was 17, and he never forgot it. This is danced to live solo piano. After the interval, and I'm only saying interval this week to be British and correct about it, after the interval, we'll come back into the theater for the work titled 4/4 by Christopher Wheeldon with music by Franz Schubert. Choreographer Christopher Wheeldon trained at the Royal Ballet School and danced with the company in New York City Ballet and began choreographing while still dancing. He is the artistic associate of the Royal Ballet and has been so since 2012. Wheeldon is deeply influenced by his experience with his training in dancing with the Royal Ballet. In an interview, he called attention to 2 British choreographers, saying Kenneth Macmillan was the biggest early influence, and then went on to say in that same interview, Frederick Ashton's scene de ballet was also hugely influential. There is nothing like being in a ballet to really study its structure, particularly when you are in the corps de ballet. It's a really great education. 4/4 from 2006 is a virtuosic pas de quatre. A pas de quatre, literally a step for 4, is a French term used to identify a ballet for 4 people. It's usually a plotless dance with a primary artistic goal designed for showing off the technical excellence of the dancers and the slight differences between them. Originally from 1845, then performed by the 4 greatest ballerinas of the era. 4/4, now titled in English, draws on that history with some notable changes. First, it's danced by 4 men. They have that technical excellence promised by the first pas de quatre. That said, men dancing in unison in ballet is really an invention of the late 20th century in ballet and doesn't happen with the same frequency as women dancing together in a corps. It also goes to show the depth of talent in this company. Watch for some subtlety in the dancing that contrasts the bravura of the men dancing in the pas de deux in the first act. The edges are smooth and shapes or images in the air less important than the ongoing momentum of the dancing. In addition to the unison dancing, I am particularly drawn to the moments of transition as one dancer completes a solo and another begins. The layering is varied and intriguing, danced in trios, solos, duets, and that quartet, as to the music, as I said, of Schubert, again performed live. Next, we have 2 works by Kenneth Macmillan, Manon and Carousel. It's really impossible to have a conversation about English ballet and not consider those 2 20th century giants, Ashton and Macmillan, both choreographers who served as artistic director for 7 years of the Royal Ballet. Ashton was a long-time artistic leader of the company, really helping to define what British ballet meant. Macmillan helped to redefine it. As former New York Times dance critic summarized, Macmillan was the person who stopped British ballet being pretty and instead made it serious. Ashton was the senior choreographic stylist against whom he needed to rebel. What's so remarkable about these 2 Macmillan duets, and I'm deliberately calling them duets and not pas de deux, is how human they are. These are life-sized dancers. They are not grandiose. The characters are not goddesses or sylphs. They are women and the men who challenge and woo them. Both duets are flirtatious and playful. They're sexy and passionate while maintaining absolute attention to technical precision in new ways that serve the choreography. We close with the work that premiered last night, Figures in a Landscape by Wayne McGregor. newly Sir Wayne McGregor. He was knighted by His Majesty the King in June. Kevin O'Hare, artistic director of the Royal Ballet, said at the news, Wayne has transformed the dance landscape in his 18 years as resident choreographer at the Royal Ballet. His unrivaled curiosity has led him to create masterpieces that have been celebrated the world over, and his collaborative dialogue with artistic, scientific, and technological disciplines puts him at the vanguard of contemporary art. That vanguard of contemporary art might have made British dance critic Judith Mackerel slightly suspicious in the beginning, saying of McGregor early on, his background may be in modern dance. But she went on to say his distinctive style, angles, curves, startling incongruities, and achingly graceful lines has successfully been transposed to ballet companies across the world. And that's what we're seeing this afternoon. Angles and curves exquisitely danced. Look for more torque in the limbs and expanded sense of space around the dancers' bodies. It's rendered so beautifully in collaboration with the designers. In summary, this afternoon, this is why people love ballet. Us in the audience sharing in the performance, the beauty, the music, the fantastic, the unbelievable, the human relationships, the stories, the abstraction, the extraordinary action, the precision, the impossible, the diamonds in their tiaras, the gems on their bodices, their tutus and tulle and point shoes. This is the history of ballet and its future. And because of the dancing, we are absolutely alive in the present with their dancing. Enjoy the performance.